What's going on, guys? Silas here for SpartanStrings, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the all-new StringKing 4X and 4S mesh. So this new mesh has a lot of differences in the last mesh that they made. It's been about 2 years since they released the 3 series, so they really wanted to make a whole new type of mesh, really just starting from scratch, and really wanted to improve from the old mesh that they made. Some of the main differences that I noticed is that it's a lot lighter, it's thinner, it has a rougher texture, and it's way softer than the original mesh. So right now I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of the 4X mesh and the 3X mesh, showing the same exact head, the same exact way, so you guys can really see the differences. So the first thing you notice about this piece of mesh is that it's a lot lighter right out of the package. The 4X mesh is 17 grams now, which is actually insane. It's super lightweight, definitely a lot lighter than any other mesh that they've produced. I don't really know the exact weight of the 3X mesh, but it's definitely a lot heavier than the 4X. So if you really want a light piece of mesh, definitely go with the 4X, but the 3X is always a good option as well. So besides it being lightweight, it's also a lot thinner. So as you can see here, the 3X mesh is a little bit thicker weave than the new 4X mesh. They introduced a new weave on the 4X mesh called the tri-weave. They try to keep it as thin as possible, but keeping it a lot stronger. They decided to use a lot less material than they did in the 3X mesh. Because it is a lot thinner, it does add into the factor that it's a lot softer. So when you do string it up, the channel is not going to be as defined as it would be in the old 3X. I was actually kind of surprised with how soft the X mesh was, even though it's supposed to be a semi-hard piece of mesh. But in my opinion, it almost feels like a semi-soft piece. And then getting into the semi-soft piece, you guys will be really shocked by how soft that is. So when it's strung up in a head, you can really tell the difference between the pocket shape and its actual definition of a pocket. Because in the 3X mesh, the pocket is a lot more defined, and it really kind of holds its shape a lot better. But that does kind of factor in whether you get enough hold or not, and the ball will be rattling around. While the 4X mesh is a lot softer, it does have a little bit looser of a channel. As you can see, the ball can kind of shift back and forth a lot in here, rather than staying kind of tight and not really moving around in 3X mesh. So that will help a lot more ball control and really keep that ball nice and tight in there and hold in there really nicely. So on top of the increased amount of hold and the rougher texture of the 4X mesh, for how soft this mesh is, it is very rough, but I do think the 3X is a little bit rougher right off the bat. But the only issue I found with 3X compared to 4X is that the 3X is a little bit thicker, so the ball does feel like it's kind of rolling around in there and it's not as secure, while the 4X mesh kind of feels like it has wider diamonds that really wrap around the ball nice and tight and really holds the ball in there compared to the 3X. So that's one thing I kind of liked about 4X a lot better, was that it does feel like it wraps around the ball and holds in a lot nicer. Another thing that I found with 4X is that strung up in the same exact way, it does add a little bit more whip because it is a lot softer. So rather than just following the normal channel as it would in 3X, with 4X, it does kind of hook on that bottom shooter a little more because it is a lot looser, and it does stretch a lot more than the 3X. So it will add a little bit more whip depending on how you string it. So you kind of just have to adjust that while you're stringing. Now I'm going to compare the 4X to the 3S because I think 4X is more comparable to 3S. Just because it is a lot softer, it's a lot thinner, it just kind of has the same feel and texture as the 3S. So you have a piece of 3S mesh in here, and if you look closely, you can kind of tell that the weave is definitely different, but the overall feel is pretty similar. The softness in this mesh is definitely a lot softer than the 3X. So pretty much the softness of the 3S matches the softness of the 4X, which I was kind of shocked with in the beginning because I personally like a little bit harder and rougher piece of mesh. But I would say that the 4X is definitely a lot stiffer than the 4S. Overall, I think StringKing made this new mesh a lot softer than the last one. I think that's kind of what they were going for, just to get a more responsive pocket and really get a nice soft feel for the ball when you're cradling, passing, and shooting, and doing whatever. So now I'm going to compare the 3S to the 4S. So now here's when things get a lot more interesting. So 4X is a lot more comparable to 3S than it is to the 4S. I'm going to show you guys right now real quick how soft this actually is. So first of all, when you pick this piece of mesh up, it's super lightweight. So when you put it in your hand, it's literally like you're holding nothing. And you can tell right off the bat how soft it is already, about how much it droops down. So because it is so thin, because it is so light, and it does stretch extremely easily, it's so moldable, so you can literally just stretch it as much as you want. It stretches super easily, but it is extremely soft. Now, I'm not really sure how it's gonna feel strung up, but as I can feel right now, the ball is definitely going to rattle a lot, and I feel like it's going to feel almost like a traditional stick, because traditionals do have a really like mobile pocket feel where the ball does rattle a lot. And I think because it is so soft, it's not going to have as defined of a pocket and secure of a pocket, but it's definitely going to have that ball rattle and hold that a lot of people will like. So if you're really into a nice soft piece of mesh that's thin and really grips around the ball really nicely, I would definitely go with 4S. But if you like more of the 3S feel, I would go with the 4X mesh, just because they are very similar in comparison. So I would say the main difference between 4S and 3S is that it's a lot lighter, a lot thinner, and the softness is just uncomparable. This is way softer than 3S, but I think that's kind of what they were going for. They're not really going for a harder feel, because the harder the mesh, the less hold it's gonna have, because the balls will tend to rattle around and not be held by the mesh, so the diamonds aren't really gonna be wrapping around the ball as much as you'd want it to. So I think they're just going for a softer piece of mesh overall, and I think they did really achieve that. Give a lot of credit to those guys at StringKing. They're really trying to make the newest and best kind of mesh possible. And I definitely will say that this is one of the top meshes on the market right now. It's going to be extremely popular. I do think it's going to be a big difference going from the 3 series to the 4 series, because it's going from a pretty harder, rough piece of mesh to a really soft, rough piece of mesh. So depending on your preferences, I would definitely check out both of these pieces of mesh. I definitely will say that the 4 series is a lot softer no matter what. So that's all I got for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. I try to give my honest opinion here today, just to really tell you guys how I feel about the mesh. So basically, based on your preferences, if you want a softer piece of mesh, I would definitely go with the 4 series. If you guys are using 3 series now, it's definitely a big change, but the mesh definitely did not get worse. It definitely got a lot better than the last one. So I would definitely check it out if you can. So thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and let us know in the comments below if you're gonna be picking up a piece of 4 series mesh. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Peace out.